No cold open. So you know something's up. Hello, and welcome to CrazyTogether, a mental health and neurodiversity podcast about the things that make us different, the things that make us sick, and the things that make us strong. We are your hosts. My name is Marcus Octavius, and I'm joined by my lovely wife,
Esme Octavius. We are a neurodivergent couple with a lot of lived experience and no credentials. If you are new to the pod, you can go back and listen to earlier episodes to get a sense of who we are. But each week we pick a topic related to mental health and neurodiversity and we talk about it. This episode will be a bit of a departure from our intended topics simply because it's been a bit of a week for us. So we decided to plumb the experience and share a few knowledge bombs. And we are recording this on Tuesday.
Yeah, so our heating system basically crapped out on us in epic fashion this past Friday. Mm-hmm. The timing was pretty spectacular because we had finally at long last in our area gotten to the freezing temperatures and below freezing temperatures.
As opposed to the 80-degree weather we were having earlier in the month.
Yeah. And it being the day after Thanksgiving. Hey, happy belated Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
But it limited service options due to the holiday weekend. So, and on top of that, then, because we didn't have the heat, or didn't have any heat in the house for a few days, the four of us, that's Esme and me, our daughter, and our dog, we had to set up in a modestly priced hotel suite in the interim. Mm-hmm. But the system failure knocked us completely off of our production schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we lost access to our recording and editing spaces while like the techs and specialists were breaking down the old unit and installing the new one. And the technicians literally just left.
Yeah.
So this is our first opportunity to get back in front of the microphones.
Yeah. So it is with great regret that we announced that we are not able to finish recording and editing part 2 of our episode on positivity. Nobody is more disappointed in us than us.
Seldom ever.
But we didn't want to leave you hanging. And in fact, this experience gave us an opportunity to share a very special message with you, dear listeners. And here it is. We are not finished products. We are now and forever very much works in progress.
It's shocking, we know. But as much as we've learned about managing our respective conditions and challenges, we still make mistakes.
Oh, for sure.
Case in point, on a purely intellectual or theoretical level, we know that heating systems, much like the humans they serve, are not immortal. They require upkeep, maintenance, and service checks to stay in good running order. And even with all of that, they too must return to the dust. We understand all of that perfectly. On a theoretical level. However, on a practical level, where we actually have to do stuff, well, let's just say that one of us, and it doesn't matter who, there's no need to point fingers, but one of us might have let us fall behind on the maintenance schedule.
It really does sound like you're pointing fingers, though.
I am, to be clear, at myself.
Well, I mean, where was I in all of this? We didn't get into this. You didn't do this all alone.
Maybe not, but to be honest, like I've been blaming myself nonstop since Friday morning. I had that sinking water feeling all day. It started when the first tech came in and just confirmed the system was dead. And it was like the water kept climbing higher and higher as each successive tech and later like the salespeople for the new system as they came through the door. And until it just feels like I'm drowning in shame because the thought kept going through my head, if I'd acted sooner, we could have gotten another season out of this thing or even just been more prepared.
Well, I don't want you to be feeling shame.
I don't either.
At all.
I don't either. It doesn't feel good.
And I don't blame you either. Like, it's not on you. This was just something that happened. I appreciate that, but I'm not quite there yet. Okay. I mean, I'm definitely well acquainted with beating up oneself.
Oh, me too. It's an unfortunate hobby that we share. But it doesn't change the fact that the first thing I felt as the cascade of bad news started rolling over was shame, and it stayed with me.
I hear you.
And in terms of our topic, I think we can come back to shame later. We don't have to spend too much more time on it right now.
Yeah. We don't need to dwell there. So that's a message for you. You don't need to dwell there. We can come back to it, or just let it go if you
Fair
can.
enough.
All right. But in any case, in dealing with the situation, we identified something timely we could share with you, and it's something we need to do better with, and that's task avoidance or avoidance procrastination.
Avoidance procrastination? What's that?
Good question. To answer that question, I pulled an excerpt from an article in Attitude magazine on the subject of avoidance procrastination.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the quote that I've pulled. It's not that the task is actually terrible. You just have an incredibly distorted perception of its difficulty or unpleasantness. Avoidance procrastination paralyzes you with dread and fear of several things: embarrassment, failure, discomfort, disappointing yourself or others, etc. This is because people with ADHD have what the author calls not now brains. Many have real challenges with focusing on anything other than the present moment. Everything is now or not now. Because the now moment feels terrible and endless, it's tough to imagine that things will feel better once you finish a hated task. So that's the end of that quote. And I have to just say that the whole not now brain thing is definitely real for us. That's for sure. And in our lives, this can manifest and does in both small and large ways. Everything from mail doom piles to the aforementioned household maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been fortunate in the sense that, like, we've lived in this house for 11 years now. And that we haven't had any unexpected big ticket expenses previous.
Yeah.
But on some level, it's just been luck, I guess, because we haven't actively kept track of these major systems, the lifespans of these appliances, and researched or upgraded anything.
Yeah.
So it just stands out as a good example of, like, where that task avoidance gets you, and
Yeah.
you know, where it can kind of come back to bite you in the buttocks.
It seems to always come home to roost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we're both on medication, right? We both take drugs.
Prescribed drugs.
Prescribed drugs. We take prescribed drugs to help us with our respective ADHD issues. And so I think a common question from, say, the neurotypical people might be like, well, does it help? Does it solve any of this?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, kind of, but. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
Here's the long answer.
Right.
That I'm going to try to stay out of the rabbit holes. I really am. But, you know, I just might go down one or two.
I'll try to pull you back if you get too far.
Thank you.
If I recognize it.
My basic and hey, check this before you quote this to somebody else understanding of how ADHD meds work. And some of this comes from the Cleveland Clinic, link in show notes. But the way that ADHD meds work, specifically stimulants like the ones that Esme and I use, they work by increasing levels of certain chemicals known as neurotransmitters in your brain called dopamine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. I'm just going to keep saying that, and hopefully that's right. One of those pronunciations.
Okay.
Norepinephrine. Let's see.
Sounds right.
So these transmitters play important roles in your ability to pay attention, think, and stay motivated. And that's the end of what I'm quoting from the Cleveland Clinic. But absent these drugs, so like people with ADHD tend to produce less of the chemicals, or they produce them at like irregular intervals. So one way, potentially, to think about how all this works, and again, you're going to want to check this, is, have you ever seen an assembly line in a Bugs Bunny cartoon? You know?
Say more. Because when I think of an assembly line, I think Lucille Ball.
It's in the same vein.
Okay.
But it's with less people. Like, it's like a big Rube Goldberg machine, basically. With these little, like, hands that come out, and they've got gloves on them for whatever reason, and they're picking things up and moving them around.
Got it. Yep.
I feel like there's one such assembly line involved in the process by which storks deliver babies.
Oh, they're like tying diapers on and stuff.
Like there's all these hands, they're moving around, they're putting on diapers, stuff like that. The music's like the music in the background. Yeah. All right. That's a vivid picture for hopefully most of us.
That's very fun.
So imagine that sort of like assembly line construction. Now, pieces of information, they flow through our brain, like they flow through our brain, much as these things might move along an assembly line. And this kind of happens all the time. My understanding is the neurotransmitters are sort of like a prioritizing and rewarding function.
Yeah.
Norepinephrine is related to mood and arousal, sensory arousal, get your heads out of the gutter, but also that kind of arousal.
And I mean, yeah. But.
Woo-woo, like that, yeah. It's that, but it's all the other types of sensory arousal.
Yeah.
And dopamine is linked to like motivation, rewards, and stuff like that. So somehow, imagine a piece of information comes along. I think the way it works is the norepinephrine sort of puts a little stamp on it that says this is important, and then whenever that piece of information is processed or turned into an action, then another little like a pleasant sound is heard throughout the factory, and maybe a nice shining light, and it goes,
"You did it!
You did it!" And that's the way it's supposed to work on its own.
Right.
That's not the way it works for Esme and I.
Right.
Now, so essentially, the drugs then they help to, at the very least, increase the levels by which we create these chemicals, or these chemicals are created in our minds, or, I mean, it's neurotransmitters. It's also something having to do with the adrenal glands. There's so much to do with this. I'm going to get it wrong. Talk to a person who has like letters after their name. They'll give you the important information. But having said all that, it's not an automatic process. Like you take the drugs, it's not an automatic process. So intention and choice.
It doesn't solve for all of that.
Yeah, I mean it helps, but intention and choice do play large roles here.
Yeah. So
if you're of the mindset to say, well, why don't you just, suck it up, do it. This is important. Be a grown up. Understood. There is some truth to that, and thank you. Thank you. We feel duly horrible, but it's just that these are not the sort of the natural systems that are occurring within our minds. And on some level, there is not that function that sort of says, that will help us naturally differentiate between thoughts like, hey, what's that shiny thing? And, hey, I should research more new heating systems. Like, we don't necessarily have that. The drugs can help us do that, but that's where intention and motivation kind of comes into play. So we take the drugs to help us, like we take them in the daytime to kind of help us manage our activities during the day.
Right.
And so much of that is devoted to,
like
each
working
other,
hours.
Working hours.
Yeah.
Doing what stuff with our daughter, making sure she's got what she needs to get through her day. And then by the time like she's in bed, the drugs are more or less out of our system.
Oh, they've been out of the system for hours at that point.
Yeah. So it's literally about carving out the time. It would be literally about like carving out the time in a day to say, research these other things, but also having awareness that they have to be researched.
Right.
And so it's just, these are the challenges that we kind of set ourselves up with.
Yeah.
And, earlier I mentioned my shame, right?
Yeah.
Where that comes from is I spent 20, 30 years of my life not understanding this connection between the chemicals in my brain and my behavior. And during that time, I had people say, what's wrong with you? why can't you do this? I've said that to myself countless times.
Yeah. Why don't you just blah, blah, blah. Here's a planner. How many day planners either I've been given or have gotten for myself, and as if that's going to solve everything too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're wondering why, I would count this experience, or my reaction to this experience would be to say this is a moral failure.
Right.
That's why. It's because I have been beating myself up about this, absent the information that I might have otherwise needed to understand how I could have been thinking differently my whole life.
Yeah.
I've internalized that, and so every time I find myself in that position, that's why shame is so often that go-to response.
Yeah, it's definitely the first to hit, the guilt and the shame for a task not done or delayed or falling behind on, because there's also time blindness. But again, that's another episode.
Right. That's another one.
That's another one. So many layers. How fun.
So all of which is to say, again, I guess two things can be true. Yes, there's room to talk about intention. There's room to talk about the things that we can actively choose to do. Absolutely. We have to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
But if you just wanted to maybe get a little insight into how our brains work differently and with regard to prioritization and things like that, there you go.
Yeah. And I think too, as we have been getting better at identifying these things, we're also trying to model better behaviors and strategies for our daughter so that she is in a better position to succeed and to, build those strategies for herself, because this will be something that she may have challenges with. And knowing that, hey, this is a function of how your brain is wired. It is not, you're not a bad person at all. This is not part of the conversation. It's just, there's a lot more need to be deliberate in actions with ADHD, for sure.
And I guess our approach is to try to talk about it more from the perspective of we can still discuss consequences.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do X, Y happened.
Right.
Without necessarily making it about some sort of failing in her. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if you talk about the actions either leading up to a decision or why a decision was forgotten, or why an action wasn't taken, something like that. Our hope is that in doing and sort of approaching it that way, we don't also saddle her with the beast of wonderful omnipresent shame.
Yeah. But you were talking about the meds and the timing and duration for that.
Oh, yeah.
So typically, with the doses, they last for, 8 to 12 hours is the outside. And I don't think I've ever gotten 12 hours out of a dose.
Yeah. Well, there's extended release and there's immediate release.
Right. But in any case, the overall, the window that you really have that you're working with to function at peak. So if you're taking it at breakfast, by 7 or 8 o'clock at night, that medication is out of your system. And the irony of that is all of the benefits may show up in your work life, but then by the time you get home and your life may take a back seat. It has for us anyway. Mm-hmm. Because we're fried at that point. We put all of this effort into maintaining focus and staying on task and all the things that again have to be deliberate for us. It's not just on autopilot that just crank through tasks. Every single one has to be a deliberate choice. That we're exhausted by that point, and we need to kind of power down for a bit and regroup. And that does make it tough then to, again, make that choice of, I know I'm not feeling it, but I need to set aside time, and we need to have a conversation, because obviously something like this, these are big ticket items. That's not a one person decision that's made. It's like, okay, what can we manage right now?
Yeah.
And negotiating, just budgeting and all of that. That carving that time out is also tough. And so that's, again, why that tends to then fall behind.
Yeah. But it's interesting too, like, just you're talking about the amount of time that's kind of like in our systems. It did get me to thinking, like, obviously, one of the big things that we kind of have to, I don't want to say deal with, it's not the right word, but one of the biggest aspects of our life where we spend more time focused on it in the off work hours is just anything involving our daughter. Because
Right.
Most days she's at school until a little bit before dinner time. Then she's doing her homework. What strikes me as odd about how this whole system works is I never felt like anything having to do with her was equivalent in any way, shape, or form to opening mail.
No.
And it's just like there is something inherent within that relationship. Call it the impact of love. Call it maybe something to do with, evolution, propagation of the species, what have you. But
we for sure love being her parents.
Yeah.
That's not a burden.
And I think it's sort of like our systems are just wired to say, to recognize that, like, anything having to do with her, oh, that's important.
Yeah.
Let's pay attention to that. Let's be actively involved with that. So it's just one of those frustrating things where it's like, oh, okay. To some extent, it seems like my life operates normally without the help of medications. But that these same processes, I guess, that are helping me to take appropriate care of my daughter.
Yeah.
I just wish I had more access to them on sort of my schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I would be in, work meetings where we were all kind of sharing what's going on in our personal lives to one degree or another. And this sounds so ridiculous. I was always, somebody would say like, oh, they're getting insulation replaced, or, this or that update or maintenance or renovation of some kind was taking place in their house. And I've always had this, how do you make that happen? Like, I've always, it's never been obvious to me how, like, doing the things, and making that decision. Like,
yeah.
I know that, like, the term adulting is kind of annoying and whatever, but I, honest to God, feel like I just want a manual. Like, I need a manual. I need to follow instructions. I need to kind of have a clear understanding of everything, have it spelled out. Because it's just hard for me to wrap my head around it, and what's normal and expected and what is, just not. I feel like I lost the thread, maybe.
No. I think you're on it. Like, for me, those types of the people who are so on top of those things, it feels like it's like a very sort of mundane and practical version of wizardry.
Yeah.
Like
they just,
sort
and
of,
it was like no big thing. Like, I think that's it too, is that the way they would discuss it is like, oh, not that big of a deal. Whereas for us, it is a big deal. Like, it's, and part of that might be that it's, delayed until it is, hectic and stressful, like more stressful than maybe it absolutely had to be. But I think, again, the fact that it was just part of their day-to-day to fit these tasks in, it's like, oh.
The no big deal thing is particularly galling.
It is.
Because, so every year, the township assesses us various taxes for property and things like that. One of them is the sewer tax, and for reasons I don't understand anymore, they explained it once, but some of these taxes get wrapped up into your escrow. The sewer tax couldn't be for some reason. I'm sure it can be, and I'm sure I'm too stupid to understand it, but essentially I have to write a check personally every year to pay off the sewer. If you do it by a certain date, then it's, there's no extra fee assessed. If you do it by another date, an extra fee assessed. If you don't do it within a certain amount of time, some really bad things start happening, like they can actually put a lien on it. Yeah, we've never been in that boat. But this is one of those things. It is burned into my brain in fear once I heard about this concept of somebody putting a lien on an outstanding sewer bill, and how that can impact your ownership of the property.
Oh my God.
This fills me with such a raging fear that it is burned into my brain. So every year when this envelope comes in the mail, it is like the one envelope that I jump on, I open up, and I'm like, oh, I got to fill this out. And when I get the statement from my bank that says, yep, check paid, I'm like, yes, I did it. It's so dumb.
Well, and okay, so that's a really good thing. So I think
that's not really good.
No. It made me think of something. But another thing that is just fuckery with how our brains work is there's a lack of dopamine, right?
Mm.
And so where a neurotypical brain would be getting those reward, like the dopamine hit when you accomplish something, which of course is then it's an incentive to get the thing done, right? Your body is conditioned in that way. Pavlov's bell. It doesn't happen naturally in our brain. There isn't enough dopamine. And so giving ourselves a pat on the back doesn't come naturally. And so it always is just stress.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there's maybe a bit of relief, but there's no reward. It's maybe just, okay, the anxiety has abated to a degree.
Yeah. I've made to-do lists before.
Yeah.
I've crossed off items on a to-do list.
Yes.
I get no discernible thrill or enjoyment off of doing that. It's just like I am pushing away shame.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of...
It's not fair.
No, it's not.
It sucks. It totally sucks. It's super annoying. And so, it does. It makes it really, really hard.
Yeah. And again, it's so different from being a parent,
Well, yeah, everything about our daughter is prioritized automatically, I think. So,
and it feels good when we can be there for her. It feels good when we're doing the right thing for her. It feels good when we're kind of living up to responsibilities.
Yeah.
So, our Darwin, our Darwin's theory related drives, all that stuff's working great. It's just the clerical stuff, kind of a big pain in the ass.
Yeah, yeah. I could add something to
Please.
this. Okay, so, and this is all because the task avoidance, that's always something that I've struggled with in life, at work. But one thing that I had observed in one of my roles over the years, they had an integrated project management system where everything was automatic and you had a queue that you pulled work from, right? And everything was delineated, how much time you had for the task, but within a window of when it needed to be done, but you were only supposed to need this much time. And the funny thing was, a lot of people found that system very oppressive. They felt oh, for Pete's sake, it's too much. It's micromanaging and all of that. I never felt that way. Every system has its bugs and glitches and whatnot. It wasn't until that system moved into a different role where that system was not in play that I realized how much I relied on it, because that part of my brain, it just doesn't work automatically. It's not clear to me. And my God, if I could have that in my life all the time, I would be on cloud nine. I think that would make things so much easier. Alas, this is not the case.
I don't want to rain on your parade or anything, but
then don't.
I think if we had something like that in the household, I'd be very sad. But we need something.
I mean, I don't know, because then it wouldn't be, because there's also the challenge of I don't like being the one to be like, we really need to look into this or blah, 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 blah. And especially if, you're not in the headspace to have that conversation in that moment or whatever, it may not happen or whatever. Having it be like a third party, then it wouldn't be I'm telling you to do something or you're telling me to do something. It's like, oh, but look, this handy dandy.
I was about to say it'd be great if we had like a robot, like the ones that they used to have in cartoons where, they're sort of built to serve humanity. But it seems like all the robots that they're building now are built to sort of replace humanity. And it's like, well, how did we skip a step in this process? Like, why are we making Terminator happen? But that's the whole other rabbit hole right there. And so at this point, what I think we would normally do in this situation is we would do research to find strategies that might be of some use and talk about them, extent to which we might have used them in the past, or how we might incorporate them into our daily lives. And we did actually find some strategies online. Esme did the legwork there. And we'll share links to that in the show notes.
Yeah, and your mileage may vary as to how well they work for you, but we will be trying to integrate some into our day-to-day, and we'll let you know how we get on.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do now, instead of going through like that list, is we're going to reach out to our dopamine and norepinephrine challenge brethren and sistren and ask, how do you manage and acknowledge task avoidance in your day-to-day? Anything that works for you, whatever strategies you find have been helpful, anything you swear by, or are there aspects of this that you still struggle with? We'd love to hear your stories. And
yeah.
I think this is one, I know we make this general sort of solicitation at the end of every show, but I think this is one where we'd love to do a specific episode on, how we can combat, or how we all have combated some of these things in our lives.
Yeah.
And I'll say this to our neurotypical listeners. I'm sure you have many strategies that have worked for you in your abilities to kind of manage your day-to-day functions, your short, intermediate, and long-term needs and requirements. And I take my hat off to you. I salute you.
That sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome. I don't want to outright discourage you from sharing your tips, but I think we are just going to put our thumb on the scale a little bit for anybody who
where this is actually a challenge, for sure.
Where there's additional challenges outside of whatever challenges might appear in our lives that make these things difficult, where we are cursed in our brains.
Oh my God.
By a lack of certain chemicals. I think we're going to prioritize those responses. But we love you, and thank you for showing up and listening.
Oh my gosh. Let's not belabor that.
This is a show for everybody.
It is. I'm going to reel that in, I think.
All right. So that's going to be our show for today. We'll be back next week with another show.
Another episode.
And this episode is going to be the whole thing on positivity, part 2. Damn it, we're doing it. Next episode. As promised.
All right. If you're anything like me, you read reviews to make sure something is worth your time, energy, and hard-earned cash. You can help us build our audience and boost our visibility by liking and subscribing on your preferred platform, giving us a rating, and if you've got an extra minute to add a review, that's amazing. Please share with a friend because, let's face it, you've got great taste and people value your opinion.
Damn straight. And I did just recently learn, or at least I heard, that apparently as few as 7 words in a review are enough to sort of convince the algorithm that this might be worth someone else's time.
Huh.
Fascinating.
How about that? So give us a like, follow, subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at CrazyTogetherPod. If you would like to support the pod, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/CrazyTogetherPod, or check out our website at CrazyTogetherPod.com, where we have some great merch available.
Yeah, coffee.com is spelled weird. It's ko-fi.com.
Mm-hmm.
So, just FYI. As always, if you have any experiences you'd like to share, are a mental health specialist or neuroscientist with any feedback for us, or if you might be interested in participating in an upcoming episode, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at crazytogetherpod1@gmail.com, or use the form on the Contact Us page of our website, crazytogetherpod.com. We'll do our damnedest to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
We only ask that you remember, as always, this is a 2-person team, and both of us have ADHD. So, we are motivated by love, but not always by the amount of time that we have. Esme's giving me that don't freestyle look. It's fine. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the show, this is Marcus and Esme saying, we're so happy to go crazy together with you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.